So, it's been a fun few days. I find it ridiculous. A representative does something that puts other people in prison, tries to make excuses. His people try to lie about it, and no matter what they do, they can't lie about it, so they're just... He doesn't know how to read, and yet this guy is in government. Right? Which is bullshit. It's a lie. He knowingly pulled that fire alarm, knowing it would disrupt things, because he couldn't get to that time to vote. He couldn't get there, and it wasn't something he wanted voted on. Meanwhile, I shouldn't say meanwhile, immediately after the fact, we find out that the Speaker of the House cut backdoor deals with Democrats to completely disregard everything he supposedly holds true. And another member of the House moves to vacate. And the Speaker is removed. I felt like Rumpelstiltskin when I woke up from a nap. I took a nap because I'd been exhausted. I woke up and the first thing I see is McCarthy. The first thing I hear from McCarthy is exactly what he was doing. Working with the Democrats to undermine the Republican Party in Congress. And yet McCarthy tried to make it seem like he's not the one who did it. I'm going to have to put on a screen here. He's not the one who did it. No. No. The one who did it was totally, most definitely Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz is the one who worked with Democrats. Who just made sure the Democrats got what they wanted. And yet that was McCarthy. That's exactly why Gaetz moved to remove McCarthy, because McCarthy completely disregarded the Republican Party, the conservative desires from their representatives to work with Democrats to make sure that government was funded. Although what they're funding, who the hell knows, because they'll never tell you. But really, Ukraine. Because at this point, what else does the United States government do but fund a foreign nation with our taxpayer money? But hey, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the fun shit and the fun conversations that are going to come up this week. You see, I fully expect my brother to say it's still not enough. I fully expect my father to say they've taken it too far. I expect the older brother, the eldest, to not have an opinion on the matter in any regard, informed or otherwise. The people at the bar, who knows? Who knows? It depends on the person. And some of them, real factionalists. My boss, I don't know. I don't know what the boss man's going to think. Probably more along the lines of my father. But I fully expect the vast majority of Americans to be taken aback by government actually working the way our government is designed to work. Because they lost their goddamn minds when we couldn't get a speaker after 15 votes. This speaker, to get the votes to be speaker, made certain promises that he completely disregarded. Hence, he is removed. That's all that really matters. The Speaker of the House, the former Speaker now, made promises that he absolutely disregarded. And you think that person is good enough to be running the government? A government that already disregards the Constitution. No, you see, what's happening now is the return of some semblance of an actual federal system. Why do I say an actual federal system? Well, you see, our government was designed to work a certain way here in the United States. And by changing small things, what are viewed as small things, you completely destroy the system. Something like the 17th Amendment. Most of you don't even know what the 17th Amendment is. Well, let me tell you, the 17th Amendment was the decision to allow senators to be elected by popular vote. Now, if you have access to a full copy of the Constitution, not the one where they update it to remove things that have been changed by amendments, although they shouldn't do that in the first place, but if you were to read the actual Constitution, under Article 1, where they explain the legislature, they explain how senators were meant to be elected. And it's actually a smarter system, because instead of small pockets of the state deciding statewide office, the entirety of the state legislature decides this office that is there to represent the state specifically. Not the people of the state, no, the government of the state. That is what the Senate was for. The 17th Amendment changed that. And it changed it, and I believe it was the 1890s. I mean, I could turn around and look, because this is all the amendments to the Constitution. This is the original proposed Bill of Rights. That's the Constitution, and the one way over there is the Declaration of Independence. These are important things, incredibly important things for American citizens. And yet, most of you have never read them in their entirety. If you really want to learn, you should copy it. Because as you write it out, you start to remember it. But, frankly, you'll need several different dictionaries. Because everything here and here requires a very specific dictionary that has terms from that time period. You might also need a grammar book from that time period to understand the sentence structure they use. But don't allow me to completely call you a dumbass. I'll just leave it there. Maybe you should call yourself one. A Speaker of the House being removed because they failed to do their job is exactly what's supposed to happen. This reality that we've lived under since the early 20th century, where everything was decided by two factions. That's not how our government is supposed to run. Whatsoever. And yet it has. And every generation currently alive has lived under it. And the two youngest generations, we're not counting the alpha kids yet, because shit, they don't know what the hell's going on. We're talking about Gen Z and Gen Y. Well, shit. Their entire adult life, for the most part, has been lived in the 21st century. Really, the 90s. But again, most people don't remember the 90s for what they were. No. But the government since the war on terror started has been authoritative. And we've done nothing about it. It's been giving its powers to the executive branch. And we've said nothing because we didn't know. Because our representatives stopped representing us and started representing their factions. And that's it. What did they say you needed to become Speaker of the House? Money. You guys probably didn't watch the 15 votes and all of the nonsense that went along with it. I get it. Most of you think government is boring and stupid, so you don't pay attention to something that you should. Great. Good for you. Fantastic. Congratulations. You're part of the problem. To be the Speaker of the House, McCarthy need only bring in the most money for the Republicans. How does that not sound corrupt to you? How does that not sound like a problem to you? It should, because it is. Hell, we don't have to deal with McCarthy as Speaker anymore. Hopefully. Really, he should just retire because he's only the third Speaker of the House to ever be removed. He's made history. He should just go away now. But he won't. No, he will stay, and he will continue to play his part as part of the Uniparty. Oh, that pesky class of politicians that have created for themselves a better life than they will guarantee to the normal citizens of this country. They get security. They get the best health care in the world. They get to decide where money goes. They don't go to prison for crimes. Insider trading is a crime. Well, it doesn't affect them. Murder is a crime. Oh, I believe there is a Kennedy that got away with that one. And yet, it's just Washington as usual. Maybe that's part of the problem. Another horrifying thing about Washington, D.C. is that it's 60 miles by 60 miles square now. It's only allowed to be 10 by 10. The city of Washington, D.C. is an occupation by the federal government of individual land that belongs to the states. That land in Maryland that becomes Washington, D.C., the city, is actually Maryland land. If you are bitching about not having representation, you look no further than the federal government for that. Because the federal government stole that land from the states, and they refused to allow you to have representation in your state. They have no right to be a 51st state of the United States. No, because it is actually unconstitutional for D.C. to become that. Read the Constitution with the proper dictionary and the proper grammar book. When you do that, I'm sure you will become as upset as I am. That may not look it. This is not the most upset I've been in these YouTube videos. Hell, this isn't the Fetterman situation or the Governor and his bullshit, which, by the way, Arnold, fuck you still. No, I am livid every time the government does something. But the problem is, the reason is, because I actually studied it. I studied history, I studied politics, I studied geography, humanities, the English language, education, and the way the education system works, which is horrifying. Congress gave me a title shortly after they completely fucked the lives of most people who graduated at the end of the first decade of this century. They called us overeducated and underemployed. They said, come work for the government, come join the military, come work for these analyst organizations. Join the CIA. Overeducated and underemployed. Because of them. Because of the actions they took to save their friends. Tell me again how we're all equal in this nation? That's right. When you look at it, we're not. No. There's the peasants, and there's the aristocracy. The citizens and the polistocracy. And for once, this year alone, elected representatives are pushing back on the polistocracy, on the ruling class of families that have carved out for themselves a paradise for themselves, where they live in luxury, completely protected, paid for by you and me, where they can go on to pet projects like green energy, which is killing animals. You guys want to bitch about, like, Japan going after whales and whaling. Why are you not bitching at the fucking wind farm out in the Atlantic that's killing whales left and right? How many have died this year? Oh my God, it's double digits. But no, let's not look at these pet projects in the polistocracy. No, let's not look at a war that at several points had off-ramps that weren't taken for whatever reason. Let's look at a war that they scream and cry and proclaim for all to hear is about democracy. As the government, we apparently are supplying with weapons and money to defend democracy, completely ignores every tenet of free society. Let's look at our own nation once more, where for the past 3 years, every major conspiracy theory has been proven true, where the media has indoctrinated a large swath of the population. Indoctrinated. It's crazy because as they've used words to try and portray what they're doing onto the other faction, onto the others. I shouldn't say the other faction, onto the others, the ones who actually refuse to follow and believe in their bullshit because we read the Constitution. We can't even use those words anymore. You're misinformed. But here's the thing, that word doesn't mean anything anymore. I could call you guys fascists because you're acting like actual fascists, but that word doesn't mean anything anymore. I could point at someone and say, you're a fucking Nazi. But the word doesn't mean anything anymore. It's fun. It's so much fun. Oh, so fucking fun. We are in a crisis. An actual crisis. Where our nation is about to disintegrate. Because a large part of the population believes a bunch of bullshit that they've been fed by people who want them believing this so they could do whatever they please without anyone going, stop. We've got another large part of the population that is so afraid of upending this nonsense that they've lived under their whole lives, they will willingly go along with it. You've got another section of the population that is sick of all of it and just doesn't care anymore. And they're dangerous because they actually don't care anymore. But they've been ostracized by the powers that be. I mean, hell, look at how fucked our society is now. Men are conservative, women are liberal. Our entire society relies upon the family. That is what our nation is built upon. Families that then build communities together, that then build larger entities. It starts with the family. And that word means nothing anymore. It doesn't. Shit, people who have the same families, directly related, brothers, sisters, don't talk to each other because of their political ideologies. A lot of households are single-parent households. We can't even agree on what 2 plus 2 means anymore. Math. We can't agree on something that is finite. You can't change the value of it. But apparently 2 plus 2 equals 5 somewhere. But there are people pushing back. And they're doing it within the system, which is the only way to proceed. We risk repeating some of the most horrific times in human history. That's what's at stake here. Because if we go one way, we follow the French Revolution. And hell, that's the road we're on right now. Or, I believe it was Cernovich actually said Bolshevik Revolution, which was also very much a French Revolution in its progression, horror, and the ultimate result. A lot of people got murdered. The government did the murdering at the behest of people who the government later murdered. And it all ended up with dictatorial government. Well, that's the road we're on right now. That's the way the United States is going right now. And that's a horrifying reality. The other which way it goes it's really the same thing. Because there is only one real difference between communism and fascism, and that's who owns the factories. That's the most basic understanding of it. But it's the same exact thing. Either we end up on this road that we're currently on, where we keep making excuses for the government and the abuses the government perpetrates. We keep making excuses for these people who are actually beholden to the same laws the rest of us are, but never seem to face justice. We continue this system that is completely unconstitutional, or we get back on the road we're meant to be on, where we follow the Constitution religiously. And what I mean by religiously is we mean we actually observe it. We do what it says. We uphold what's written. We preach what is in there. The promise, I mean, that's... Frederick Douglass had a wonderful speech he gave in the 1830s, where he talked about what exactly needed to be done to fulfill the promises of this nation. That's the road we need to be on. And that's not where we are. I mean, I still think it's hilarious when people get on my case about pointing out that we are a constitutional republic that is occupied by a corrupt government. Government's only got power because we listen. When the government took your rights away, what did you do? You most likely listened. Oh, I'm not going to hang around other people. Oh, this is going to kill us. No, you wore masks. You got fucked up. You took vaccines that weren't properly tested. You got fucked up. You still get the virus. When those of us who never took the vaccine had the original variation, I've never gotten COVID again. Never. Never had COVID after I had it the first time. I've been around people who've had it. I've been around people who were in contact with it. Never got it again. Also, never gotten the vaccine. I didn't wash my hands with rubbing alcohol and killed all of the good bacteria. I didn't do any of that. But shit. I killed your grandmother, right? No. The governor of New York, the governor of Pennsylvania, their administrations, they killed your grandparents. Specifically, because they put people back into nursing homes. So, hey, there's the government fucking you again. But that's only one faction of the government that fucked you there. And that McCarthy guy worked with that faction to fuck all of us. So, it's going to be a fun conversation when I run into my father and we talk about this, although I feel like he's going to not want to talk about this because I'm going to say a bunch of things that he doesn't want to hear because they're hard to hear, because they're the truth. And that's always the case when it comes to actually talking about what's going on in our nation, even though my father and I both fall on the conservative side. He is unwilling to see what's actually happening because, I don't know. But he took an oath once to uphold and defend the Constitution, the nation, and the citizens, and yeah, kind of tough. Kind of tough, because his understanding of the Constitution is informed by an education system that knowingly taught him wrong. So, fun stuff, guys. Fun stuff. It's going to be a fun week. I wonder how many votes it's going to take to get a new Speaker of the House. Because I am going to listen and laugh my ass off the whole time. And Hakeem Jeffries, go fuck yourself. Because you shouldn't be in government as it is. You racist piece of shit. But hey, have fun, YouTube.